Useful information isn't enough. You can give someone completely accurate, incredibly helpful information, and they'll still ignore it. They're not going to care until they understand why it matters to them. And most creators skip right over that step. They start with what they want to say instead of giving the viewer a reason to care. A couple of summers ago, I learned this in a very uncomfortable way. Normally, I couldn't care less about how to fix an air conditioner. If you had shown me a video called How to Diagnose Your AC Unit, I would have scrolled right past it. But then my air conditioner went out on one of the hottest days of the year. It was 90 degrees with no relief in the forecast. And the HVAC guy couldn't fit me in for 4 whole days. I was walking around the house in my underwear and still sweating. Suddenly I cared a lot about air conditioners. So I got on YouTube and I started searching. Why isn't my air working? What should I check first? Can I fix it myself? I watched HVAC videos from start to finish that I never would have clicked on the day before. And here's why I'm telling you this. Those videos didn't suddenly become more accurate. The information didn't become more useful. But my need for the information changed. Yesterday, fixing my air conditioner had nothing to do with my life. Today, I was sweating through my underwear. The information had become relevant. And that's a distinction I think creators need to understand. Because we often assume this information is useful, so people should want it. But useful and relevant, they're not the same thing. Useful describes the information. Relevance describes the relationship between that information and the person receiving it. And your viewer is evaluating that relationship from the second that they see your content, your title, your thumbnail, your very first sentence, your first example. They're asking themselves, why should I care? Not consciously, but the question is in their mind. And if your content doesn't answer it, the viewer doesn't have a reason to stay long enough to see how useful your information actually is. And this gives us a simple way to think about communication. Information, relevance, meaning. Information answers, what is this? Relevance answers, why does this matter to me? And meaning answers, what does this change for me? Most creators are really good at the first one, information. We know the subject of our video. We've done the research. We've had the experiences. We've developed the expertise. So when we sit down to create, we naturally begin with what we know, and then we explain it. But explanation doesn't create the relevance. Sometimes it just creates more information. Great communication builds the connection first. It takes what you know and connects it to something that already exists in the viewer's world. A problem that they're dealing with. Something that they want. Something they're afraid of. A question they can't answer. A goal they're trying to reach. A belief that they have. That's relevance. And there's actually an established finding in psychology that points in the same direction. It's called the self-reference effect. When people process information that they can relate to, they tend to remember it. Which makes complete sense. Your brain treats information differently when the answer to, what does this have to do with me, is obvious. But a lot of creators make the viewer build that connection themselves. Here's an example. Imagine I tell you, Hip flexor stretches can improve mobility and reduce tightness. That's useful information. It's clear. And it might even be completely accurate. But if your hips feel fine, you probably just don't care very much. But now imagine you've been sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, and every time that you stand up, your hips feel so tight that you have to take a few steps before you can finally fully straighten up. And then I tell you, if your hips feel stiff every time you stand up after sitting, this stretch could be your solution. It's the same exercise. It's the same information. But now it connects to a problem that you're already experiencing. I didn't make the stretch more useful. I made it more relevant to you. And that's the difference. The information tells you what the exercise does. Relevance helps you understand why you should care. And once you see this, relevance starts showing up everywhere in communication. The hook isn't just what am I about to teach? It's why should the viewer care about learning this right now? Teaching isn't just how can I explain this clearly? It's where does this fit into the viewer's life? An example isn't just what demonstrates my point. It's can the viewer recognize themselves inside of this example? And storytelling isn't just what happened. It's why does what happened to me matter to the person listening? And that's the piece that people leave out. You can tell a detailed story. You can make it entertaining. You can describe exactly what happened. And your viewer will reach the end thinking, okay, why did you tell me that? A story becomes communication when you help the audience make the connection. Not just here's what happened to me, but here's what this means for you. Influence works the same way. Giving someone a fact is information. Showing them why it should affect their decision, their belief, or their behavior gives it relevance. Showing them what happens if they act on it gives it meaning. Information, relevance, and meaning. And now think back to my air conditioner. The information was, here's how an air conditioner works and what you can check when it stops working. But the relevance was that my house is over 90 degrees. I'm sweating in my underwear and nobody can help me for days. The meaning was if I understand this information, I might actually be able to make my house livable again. Same information, but different relationship. And a different level of attention. And that creates a really useful test for your own content. Before you write the hook, before you build the outline, before you even turn on the camera, ask yourself, why does this matter to the viewer? And don't let yourself give a lazy answer. Get specific. What problem does it solve? What does it help them do? What does it help them avoid? What confusion does it remove? What does it change in their lives? Because if you can't answer that, you probably haven't found the relevance yet. And if you haven't found it, don't make your audience search for it. That's your job. Your audience's job isn't to care, but your job is to give them a reason to. Information has value, but relevance gives it meaning.